well, I think we can begin at 7 o'clock. So welcome. My name is Ryan Hamilton, and I'm with the University Sunrise Club, and I'm the tech support for this presentation. And the presentation is the heart of, or it's on membership, and it's the heart of every club and how to keep it beating. And when I first heard about this presentation, I thought, I need to get our incoming membership person here. And then it struck me that, I'm actually the incoming membership person for our club. So I'm particularly looking forward to this. I would like to introduce Bailey Neeland, and she's from Seattle 4. And before she gets started, I'll just go advance a slide and remind us all of the vision of Rotary and the reason why, one of the big reasons why membership is important. And the vision is, together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves. And so you've likely attended plenty of these, but we use the Q&A button is very useful. If you have a question, you can ask it at any time, and then Bailey will take time to answer them towards the end of the program, and the raise hand feature also works well. And so if you have a question, we'll call on you to ask it, and then we just unmute you. So it's all pretty simple. And Bailey, please begin.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan. You can head to the next slide. I want to welcome everyone to membership, the heart of every club and how to keep it running. As Ryan mentioned, I am Bailey Neeland, and I will be leading you in tonight's discussion. But I want you to be able to take away a better understanding of the district's plan to be a resource and how we're here for you. Hopefully you'll get some tools, some connections out of this. Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves and letting us know where you're from. I want to also take a moment and just thank you for not only joining me tonight, but for joining Rotary. As you heard Ryan talk about our vision statement, you know, that is our overarching vision, and we cannot accomplish that without amazing Rotarians like you. And how do we attract such people? I mentioned this in my talk last night, that you are the attraction, right? It's all about the connections. It's all about the energy that we're bringing to the table. So it's great to have you guys all at the forefront of this membership discussion. We'll jump to the next slide, and I want to start off by taking a quick poll. We're gonna pop up this poll that Ryan put together, and it just has 3 questions on it. How long have you been with Rotary? What is your upcoming role in membership committee? And for those of you that are incoming chairs, I know there might be some that are not on this call, but I want to know, is this your first time being chair of membership, or have you been on it for a couple of years? So go ahead and fill out the poll.
Actually, while you're filling that out, I had only one role, and that was to introduce Bailey. And I didn't even mention that Bailey is the district membership chair this year. So, and she's from Seattle 4. Okay, we'll stop this in 20 seconds.
Perfect.
Okay, got 19 out of 30 voted. Couple more. All right. There we go.
All right, this is great. So we have, you guys can all hopefully see these poll results. We have about a good amount that are 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 6 to 9 years, and about 50% of you that have been in Rotary for 10+ years. For your upcoming role in membership, this is great. We have kind of a mix of chairs and members, and even people that aren't on the committee. This will pertain to all of you guys, so thank you for joining. And it looks like we do have a couple first-time chairs, so welcome. I know sometimes becoming a chair can seem really daunting, but hopefully this will help put you a little bit more at ease. If you jump to the next slide, you'll see here that I'm going to be sending out a link right now to all of you. And you'll see that in the chat box. I'd love for you to take 30 seconds to go ahead and fill this out. This is just a quick snapshot of a little bit of your information. This document will last here forever so that you will be able to find contact information for other membership chairs and membership committee members and other people who are interested in helping move forward membership. But this just also helps for me to have your contact information so that as I get resources, as I get updates, and as I go to schedule our meetings, which I'll discuss more on later, you will not be missed. I'll bring that up again later in the conversation, but just want to make sure to get as many of your guys' stuff as possible. So let me tell you a bit about my Rotary background. If you were on my last night's webinar, Telling Your Rotary Story, this will all sound familiar, so apologies for that. But I first joined Rotary back in 2015 with Spokane Club 21. And I was invited to lunch by a friend and mentor who I hold very highly. For me, I love the service above self aspect and the ability for the club to make real impact. But what I truly love and what keeps me coming back is the fellowship. So when I was recruited to the Seattle Sounders and made my way back west, I knew I had to join a club over here. And now, as Ryan mentioned, I am part of Seattle 4, which meets every Wednesday for lunch. And I was so happy that even though changing clubs, it's still one big family, you know, with phenomenal speakers, engaged Rotarians, and opportunities to fulfill your passions. Not only are some of my closest friends Rotarians, but they really have become family. So a personal side note for you guys, and this is kind of a bummer of a thing, but I was actually supposed to be getting married this Saturday. I'm really supposed to be down in Cabo, Mexico right now, enjoying margaritas on the beaches and getting my last minute tan on before the big day. But we had to cancel due to COVID. And I have gotten the most thoughtful messages, cards, gifts, and phone calls from my Rotarian friends, especially the ones that I even met years ago in Spokane. It looks like the documents view only. I'll go ahead and update that here in just a second, just to let everyone know. But going back to Rotary, one person that really sticks out the most is who I called my Rotary mom. And I used to do holidays with her and her family when I wasn't able to make it back to Seattle to see mine. She took me in. When my back went out, she was the one who drove me to the chiropractor. When I got my new job in Seattle, she was one of the first to want to take me out to celebrate. And when our wedding got postponed, she was one of the first ones to call. So when I became a part of Rotary, first joining 21, I jumped right into membership since I knew how important it was to spread the word, but also to get the great people I knew to be a part of the greater collective of Rotary. And so I was on the membership committee and I was even the chair. And I know how difficult it can be. You may feel like you're on an island or that everything kind of falls to you. And it's hard because with membership, it's twofold. It's not just bringing in new members, but it's retaining the existing ones. And sometimes factors are out of your hands. Sometimes you find yourself in a pandemic. But Kathy Gibson, our oncoming district governor, has been doing a great job digging into membership and really getting feedback on how clubs were feeling. And we want you to know, especially those of you that have been chairs for a while, that we have heard you and from your clubs, and we want to be a support. We want to be more present. And with that being said, we have a few initiatives that we are focused on for the oncoming year that we hope will help you in your endeavors. So if you want to switch to the next slide. Paul Harris once said that Rotary changes us and those we serve. I believe we can change the world one life at a time. Now we are able to force such change in the world with our members and through our members. And we want you to first and foremost, give yourselves and everyone on this call a round of applause for stepping up to help us with this, right? We want you to know that we are here for you and you know that you guys are here for one another. So as we jump into what those initiatives are on the next slide, you'll see that leads is one of the first ones. Now, this is not to say that you're not going to be trying several initiatives of your own to get leads, but we are working to better streamline and allocate leads that we are getting at the district level. I don't know if you know this, but we usually get about 8 to 10 leads from Rotary International a month. As District Trainer Chair Gene Withers would say, these are the golden tickets, right? These are warm leads that are from people who have not only inquired and showed interest, but they actually took action on their own to reach out to Rotary International. Kathy has also put together a Reconnect with Rotary, and that's already well underway of compiling different contacts of people who have either once been touched by Rotary, perhaps they received a scholarship or they were at an event, along with those that were former Rotarians that may be interested in looking at rejoining or checking out a new club. There's also going to be a public image campaign coming up, which will be a great way of getting the public aware of Rotary just in general, and interested individuals will then have the opportunity to reach out to learn more. And Rotary has also been working a little bit with Toastmasters International, where we feel there could be some great candidates and leads that will come out of that as well. So I mentioned this, but it's important to know that this endeavor is twofold. So we not only want to make sure that we are helping to fill your bucket of leads, but we want to make sure that you are prepared for those and have a process in place to take on any new leads. You know, make sure, are you reaching out? Are you inviting to an event, a meeting? What does that process really look like? Who's doing that process? Is it a committee member? Do you guys take turns? We'll look to all of that. Now, the enhanced trainings, as many of you have been on several of these Festival of Training webinars, the district wants to make sure we are equipping you with tools, information, resources, and connections. We have done a test run on providing new member orientation sessions. Now, I know not every club has an orientation structure fully set in place, and we wanted to make sure we are helping to provide clubs with opportunities to engage new members, help educate them on the history, and show them why it's so wonderful to have them as part of the family. The test ended up being very successful, so we're going to be looking to hold those in the new year. We're going to do another quick poll because I'd love to hear from you guys. Just 2 quick questions. Would you guys, in your personal experience and at your Rotary, would you find a virtual new membership orientation at the district level beneficial for you guys? And how often would you want this orientation available? So go ahead and fill those out.
Okay. About 5 more seconds. Okay.
All right, so that's great. It looks like everyone said that it would be beneficial, which is wonderful. It looks like there are some people who would want it monthly, some people who would want it every month, and some who would want it quarterly. So I'll go ahead and take these notes into effect. We might just leave it as maybe a monthly thing so that those of you that need it less often, you can use it when you need it, but that way we're here for everyone, and those of you that are needing it a little bit more. Let me see, I'm just going on and updating those settings. And it looks like everyone should be able to edit now. So go ahead if you have a chance as we're doing this, and I'll give you some extra time later as well to go ahead and edit that link. But thank you guys for the poll. This just helps give us some information. We have Kathy Gibson on here as well, so she's able to get your feedback on all of this, and then we'll be able to talk through it all. We've also been running these Vibrant Club workshops on Mondays where we've been getting feedback from various clubs. You guys may have been on them. And we're finding out, you know, what's working, what isn't. We're trying to best equip ourselves with the information so that we can make sure and provide you additional trainings. I personally have found that one of the best parts of those workshops is when we break out and hear from other clubs, right? We don't have to necessarily recreate the wheel. Clubs are doing some really great innovative things. So let's share with each other what those are. And everyone always runs into issues or has questions. And I want you to know you are not alone. So let's bring those to the table. Let's discuss those. Let's try to all come together to figure out how we overcome them. Someone may have already overcome them in another club that can help. So with that being said, you'll notice down there quarterly meetings. I will be hosting quarterly meetings virtually. This will allow us to come together, hear what's going well, hear what's not, and be able to correct or provide insights or look into issues before it's too late. The hardest part, right, is sometimes you get this momentum towards the very end of your term, and all of a sudden you're at the end and with only a month left. And so we want to make sure that we're here for you throughout the entire year. Now, I will remind those of you perhaps who came on late, let's go ahead. There's the link one more time in the chat box so that you can go ahead and fill in that information to make sure, because I'll be reaching out to all of you guys to see when the best times would be for you to meet. In our first meeting, we're going to be focusing on the new year, your new initiatives. Every clubs might be slightly different. Looking at your lead plans. So where I mentioned earlier about having a process in place, we'll want to go over those then. We want to make sure you are as prepared as possible for the year ahead. You know, we want to hear about your goals, your net new members, your member satisfaction, your member engagement, how you're really going to be counting for all of that throughout the year and what that looks like and what that means to you. So as we jump to the next slide. Now, I mentioned earlier that you are not alone, and the time to start is now. On the next slide, you'll see kind of some things to start thinking about for your checklist, right? Get to know your upcoming club leadership, your president, your board of directors. Understand their objectives for your club. Understand the issues that your club has faced on membership in the past. Work with them on the goals. I think it will be really important that they bring you into that. You know, you need to provide your perspective and input, and you need to be realistic, right? These are, especially this upcoming year, I think is going to be a very challenging year for some, but it can also be a really great year overall. We just want to make sure that we're being as prepared as possible. Also want you to start meeting with other chairs in your club. A lot of times what I found when I was a membership chair is that there are so many different committees and a lot of them are siloed and, you know, their meetings and everything. Try to get to know the different chairs, or if you already know them, try to sit down with them or join one of their meetings and see what they're doing. See how you guys can really integrate in, because realistically, membership should not just be something that's thrown on you to bear on your shoulders alone. It should be talked about through all the committees, all the clubs throughout. And so you're going to need them, they're going to need you, you know, especially with recruitment and retention. That should be happening at every aspect. Right now is a great time to build your dream team. Identify those that would be a good fit for your committee, you know, those with excellent Rotary stories to share. We talked about that last night. Those that are friendly, outgoing, and welcoming. Also make sure to include those that are new. That's a great way for retention. It's a great way to bring people in and engage them. I know one of the best things is getting people on committees so that they get involved right away. They get to know people really well right away. But it also will help bring some new ideas to the table. And then make sure to network with other membership chairs and other Rotary clubs. So that's what hopefully this Google Doc will help you do. You know, that will remain open, like I mentioned earlier, for all of you. And I encourage all of you to keep in touch with one another. I know, and I always joke about this when I was talking with Kathy earlier, is that I'm now working for Live Nation, which is a global company, and I'm their director of sales. And we have several director of sales scattered throughout the globe. And one of the first things I did when I came on board was get introduced to other sellers throughout the country. And it just helps, you know, they become a really great person to check in with, to ask questions. You know, there may be some things that they've already done that you're trying to work on now that they can help provide some notes for you. On the next page, you know, things to think about. I mentioned you are not alone. We did a workshop last night on telling your Rotary story, and that will be available on our district YouTube channel. But what we stressed is that it's not just important to reflect on, practice, and share your Rotary story, but really to get your committee and club members to understand the importance of integrating Rotary into your overall story, making sure you're integrating Rotary into all of your life, not simply mentioning it when it gets posed to you. And that shouldn't just be the job of someone on the committee, but by the collective Rotary, right? Because stories will be remembered 22 times more likely than just facts and figures. However, we also discussed people's hesitations on speaking about Rotary, and many of the responses were that they simply didn't think about it. Maybe they were afraid there'll be questions they won't have answers to, or they aren't sure people would care to hear. So I encourage you to start thinking about the following and adding it to your checklist. Do a pulse check for your club. This not only gives you a sense and foresight into retention, but helps provide your greater perspective. You can find out how many include Rotary in their everyday talk, how many wear their pins, find out the reasons for why they're hesitant to bring it up, or maybe why they haven't thought to bring it up. Maybe help start putting together their stories and your own story. And also start putting together talking points on your club, because eventually it will lead to then some of these following statistics. And maybe you work with another committee on this. When I was in Club 21, I not only worked with our membership committee, our engagement committee, but also our marketing PR committee, if you have those, as well as the president and some of the leadership to build some of those talking points up. You'll see here on this slide that we talk about, you know, things that you really want to equip everyone with, knowing that we're a global network, knowing that we have leaders, friends, we're a community. The big tagline that you hear a lot about Rotary is that we are people of action. You hear a lot of times service above self. That's something that people really feel close to when they think about Rotary. You know, we have 4 avenues of service, whether it's through the club, vocational, community, and even international. But the biggest one that I'm going to stress to you is, again, know about your club and working with these different committees, working with your president, your leadership. You'll be able to hear from them what their goals are, what their leadership thoughts look like for the oncoming year, and you'll be able to get some taglines from them as well. As we go to the next slide, I want you to remember too that you have resources. I mentioned your club leadership, right? At that level, you have your president, your committee chairs, your board of directors. They will help you provide the vision of next term as well as talking points. But you also have us at the district. So we have our District 5030 website, and that is rotarydistrict5030.org. We have a lot of great information. That's a great resource for you, as well as our YouTube channel that I've mentioned a couple of times now. Those are awesome ways to go check in, see what we're doing, what we're focused on. You'll see some of those Rotary stories that Jean had put together for us, and we will continue to do. Maybe that's something that you'll want to help build a campaign on going forward for your own Rotary Club. So things to think about. You also have me. So I am your district membership chair. I will be setting up quarterly meetings, but will also be providing my personal email to all of you at the end, so that should any of you have questions in the meantime, you can always reach out. Kathy Gibson is wonderful and very approachable. You know, if you have questions for her as well, she can help give you that larger vision. As I mentioned before, you also have one another. And so whether you're at the same club, you're just meeting today, reach out. Let them, you know, share their stories, find out what's working, what's not working. And also, don't forget about Rotary International. That has a great library of resources, trainings. They even have checklists for members. So if you're looking at, you know, what a membership chair needs to be doing, they have a lot of great tips and tricks. I'm going to actually take a poll. This will be our final poll tonight. And it's just how many of you have gone on to Rotary International's website and checked out some of their learning materials? I'll be honest. I, even as membership committee chair. I only recently started taking advantage of the great marketing materials that they provide, some of the educational materials that they provide. Prior to that, I've really only gone on to check some status, maybe if, Paul Harris fellowships, you can check kind of those things. But yeah, it looks like there are quite a few of you who have not gone on. I would urge you guys to go and check it out. They have so many different resources. If you can't find anything, feel free to reach out to me as well. And I can hopefully point you in the right direction for that as well. So we're gonna jump into the next slide. And this is really, I would love to hear from you guys, a quick discussion. I know we don't have all night, but I want to hear from you what things have been working well, what things are you concerned about, whether you're new, whether you have been a membership chair for a long time. I know we may not get through everything, but I want that discussion to start now, because then we'll just be that much more ahead. And as these things, progress, I can hopefully take on and follow up with you prior to the new year kicking off. I think the best way, since unfortunately this is a webinar series and not the Zoom meetings, and so it won't be as much dialogue, but if you want to go and start entering into the chat room, any questions you have.
I think the Q&A window works pretty well.
Okay.
So, or the raise hand.
Okay. Perfect. Does anyone have, it looks like Richard has a raised hand.
Does it? Oh, yeah. Excuse me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you, Richard.
Hello.
Uh-oh. Oh, I got muted. Let's try.
If you could put that link on the screen again. I just didn't get my phone up in time.
Oh, no worries. I just put it back in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I know, Henry, we talked about that earlier. I did that last night in the
you took it away already.
Huh?
I didn't get it. Can you put it back on?
Oh, it's the spreadsheet link. Is that what you're seeking, Richard?
No, our speaker's link. So when she is going on Google Doc, I can.
Yeah, if you actually click into the chat room, it's listed there.
Okay.
Because you won't be able to pull it up from,
all right.
from the PowerPoint itself, since that's just a screen. So
okay.
what is your experience? David reached out. And what is your experience in bridging membership relationships between longtime members and new younger members? I think
David's been, he can speak now and ask the question.
Hi, this is David Della from Seattle International District Rotary. And so my question is as we're moving forward and trying to draw new members into Rotary, how do you balance out the interest of longtime Rotary members with newer members, their interest? How do you meld that together effectively to create a dynamic club?
Yeah, and can you tell me a little bit more about the structure of your club?
The structure?
Yeah, like do you guys typically meet for lunches?
We are a lunch club, and we used to meet every week, but we meet only twice a month.
Okay.
And then our board meets once a month. But over the last year, before the pandemic hit, we were starting to experiment with the idea of doing more fellowship type of events that drew people in. Yep. As well as we had some ambitious fundraising plans that was going to engage some of the younger people who run businesses in our area, but that never panned out to attract them. But I think that some of those interests in came to light, what do you do for businesses that are run by young people? What can you do to get them involved in service, and how do you do it in a way that respects their time and their interests?
Yeah, great question. So when I was the membership chair back in Rotary 21, we had that same issue where we had such a great tradition of Rotary and had so many Rotarians that had been with the club for even 50 years plus, that were kind of an older demographic. And then you had kind of these younger business people that were, just either newly to the workforce or kind of on their uptrend, but newer to Rotary. And so it's trying to figure out that good balance, right? Of making sure that you're reaching out to everyone and that you're providing value and being authentic to your Rotary brand. One of the things I can say too is, that's why I stress as you're building that dream team, make sure that you're including a diverse group of people to hear what works well. What we found were that, at the lunch tables, we even did a program on kind of fellowship. And we had a guest speaker come in who is a leadership speaker. And we did at the tables themselves, everyone had to go around and speak about themselves for 2 minutes.
Oh.
And it sounds silly because 2 minutes is 2 minutes. But when you think about it, for people who love to talk, it's really hard to condense something down to 2 minutes. And for people who really don't like to talk, it's really hard to fill 2 minutes. But we did different things like that. We also provided opportunities to get people involved in committees. So we did during that time, we did kind of a speed dating, but committee style, and had the committee heads switch from table to table and give their pitch and information on how to get involved. Now, when you talk about getting people interested, whether it's younger business members, one thing you might want to look at too is, I know lunchtime can be difficult, especially for younger business members. It might be difficult to get away from the office or to get back in time. I would say that look at what you're doing outside of your regular programming. So one of the things we would do, which was really fascinating, is we did a breakfast once a month. And I think it was the third Wednesday morning of every month. And we would it would be a surprise reveal where we would feature one member, and they would kind of share insights about themselves, and it would be more personal than business. And it was fun because we found out, some of these young Rotarians had these amazing endeavors that they've already taken on. We had some members who were part of NASA, and so you find out all these really cool things that that kind of connect people together. So looking at evening opportunities sometimes help better. But I think by having some of these less formal opportunities can help bridge those gaps. So when they do come to the lunches, they're starting to build that community together and not feel so far apart. It's funny, one of my closest friends at Rotary, she is celebrating her birthday tomorrow, Fedva. I don't know if you guys know her, but she is amazing. And I'm swinging by tomorrow to go drop off a little gift for her. And she always jokes that she's so old, but like we connected right away just because we got to learn about each other. I learned at an event that she loves to travel. She loves good food, all these things that we both found interesting. And so, maybe creating that setting and that opportunity for people to open up and really make it more personal can really help build on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from Nancy Merrill. Do you want to ask yours?
Yes, I see. I'm okay. I can speak. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I'm relatively new to our club, 3 years, and membership chair for the first year last year. And as I began to try to pull out more ideas, I kept getting from fairly involved and active members, that's not the way we do it. This is how we do it. It's only Rotarians ask their friends, and then they're vetted quietly behind the scenes. No, you can't go out and recruit. All kinds of that are a little bit hard to get past when you're kind of the new person on the block to begin with. And so I'm looking for ideas for that. And I appreciate, Bailey, the ideas you just gave. I'm putting those down for future note.
I think,
Thank you.
know, and that is thank you so much. It is a delicate nature because you know, with Rotary, there are such rich traditions. And, you know, one thing to note with Rotary, it used to be very different. Even from the time that I was in Spokane to being a part of Seattle, like I was nominated in and asked. And then when I, you know, learned more, then I filled out the application. I know part of the history was that women used to not be involved in Rotary because they were not invited. So I think one thing we just want to remind people is that Rotary, the great thing about it is that it's able to adapt, right? And it's able to adapt with times. And even now where we're in a pandemic, you know, Rotary is finding a way, different clubs are finding ways to still get together virtually to find ways of having their programs. One thing I would encourage too is just as you're talking to them, remind them of the vision statement, right? That together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities and in ourselves. And if we can use that as our guiding light, right, that should always be our vision going forward. Ask them, you know, find out what is their hesitancy with maybe some of the things you're doing. And maybe you have some answers to that. Like maybe it's just not feeling comfortable, and maybe there are ways that you can help them feel more comfortable by having those discussions and just sitting down with them and talking. I know when I first joined Rotary 21, I was the youngest person ever to be a Rotarian in the club, and they used to joke because they're like, "Oh, you do love change, like you know, you're trying all these new things," and it almost got to a point though where they almost embraced it. But if you approach it respectfully and sit down with them, take them to coffee, or, you know, right now, I guess a Zoom coffee meeting, but just have a conversation with them and let them be a part of the solution that you're bringing to the table too. Let them provide some input, because a lot of times too, they may have some really great suggestions or reasons for where they're coming from. But hopefully together you guys can kind of create a synergy to build something even better together forward.
Great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Henry Wong.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm also with the Seattle International District Club, but my question is kind of going along the lines of what we were talking about before, with kind of bridging that gap between that younger demographic and the more traditional. Mm-hmm. And what we're starting to see is cost being a barrier, and not even necessarily the cost itself, but it's like the value you get for the cost or for the price. That makes sense. So mm-hmm. It's like, even if it's not prohibitive in a sense, it's like they want to see some value from what they're getting. And so my question is, it seems like kind of balancing that difference between people that want to do more in terms of volunteering and actual service versus more of the donation aspect. So we've kind of thrown around the idea of if there's some kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a bartering system, where, you know, you kind of trade your time for that, you know, we put a value on time that you put in the club. So maybe you have some people that are just paying dues, and maybe you have other people that are, you know, they get reduced dues for participating more, you know, whether it's taking on leadership roles or putting in active service hours. So I'm kind of curious if you've heard of anything like that, or any kind of models that you've seen that work.
And I think that's a great one that you bring up. I'm glad you brought that up, because, and I'd, you know, be happy to hear from anyone else who is also going through that or has found a way around that. Because that's definitely something that a lot of Rotary clubs will experience. I know, you know, coming from Spokane to Seattle and now being a part of the downtown Seattle, I was just having this conversation with our president, in that, you know, you look at the cost of Rotary, but it's not just the cost of Rotary, right? Because then it's your cost of time. Going during lunch hour is when ours is, and I have to leave, you know, almost 20 minutes before to get there. You're paying for an Uber because parking is too expensive. And then you're leaving, you know, by the time you're gone, it's about 2 hours. and you've spent quite a bit of money in transit as well. And so one thing that's great about your role and what I encourage you guys to do is be advocates for members. So it's not just bringing members in, but helping provide to leadership that feedback. And, you know, right now we were having discussions on what we're doing during this pandemic and the cost of things as people are struggling or having their own, you know, personal kind of financial struggles as people are on furlough and laid off or whatever the case may be. We've had some things where some Rotarians will step up and maybe they want to, you know, be a part of providing kind of an extra pot for people who are going through something and need that extra financial support. There are opportunities of looking at, you know, different structures like you mentioned, whether it's maybe if you're doing so many activities with the club, maybe there's discounts, maybe there's different ways of decreasing what the costs look like. I think that's definitely something that membership shouldn't have to take on alone, but that, you know, should be looked at by the leadership and by the board of directors, as well as all committees, because I think that's a conversation that we'll really want to move forward for a lot of clubs, not just your own.
Heidi Shepherd.
Oh, hello. Heidi Shepherd, Lake Forest Park. One of the things that we've instituted to bridge that gap between more senior members and those that are just coming in is to set up a mentoring program where the mentors are trained prior to the induction of a new member. And then you start to see a relationship between two people to explain all the acronyms and which foundation is which. And, you know, what am I supposed to do? And what's the malaria project? How do you do a grant? All of those things, as well as why is this a rule? Because we learn from the new members all the time, right? Why do we have to do it that way?
And
well,
Heidi,
good. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Try a new way.
I'm glad you brought that up too. When I shared my story and I mentioned the woman who was like my Rotary mom, it's funny because she was in fact my mentor when I came on. And at first I was like, wait, why isn't the person that signed off on me, that nominated me, why didn't they bring, why aren't they going to be my mentor? And what was explained to me was they want you to have someone completely new. So you have one more new connection in Rotary, and so that you can, you know, learn from someone else, get new perspective. And yeah, it's great to see how those relationships start to blossom. I know it's really some of the things that people struggle with though in clubs is making sure that you get enough mentors for all the new members. Sometimes you have to double up, or you have to find people that are willing to take the time and stuff. But I think if you can build that into just being a Rotarian at your club, I think that's a great way for sure.
And Martha Sidlio. Gonna unmute. I'll unmute you, Martha. Still muted. We'll go to Hal Beals.
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of comments. University Sunrise struggles with younger members and the costs. So we've decided to basically initiate a reduced dues policy for new members under certain ages. It's kind of a tiered thing up to age 40, I do believe. We are also discovering that the greatest cost, part of the cost of being a Rotarian, at least in our club, is the cost of food. Rotary was started over 100 years ago when people actually had lunch together in restaurants. And many clubs still try to do that, including our own. We're a breakfast club. We used to meet at a wonderful restaurant. I'm not too sure if they're going to open again. But now that we're not paying $30 for breakfast, we're discovering that we perhaps have to rethink the cost of food and the great percentage of our dues that our food costs are. Our treasurer has estimated that 90% of our dues money goes to pay for food. top of that, we pay an additional cost out of our own pockets every week. So the food thing has gotten ridiculous, and I think now that we're all doing Zoom meetings, it's going to give us an opportunity to rethink, how we do meet, where we meet, and maybe de-emphasize the importance of having expensive food.
Yeah. Those are great points. Thank you so much for sharing. It is, so I have a question for you too, because you mentioned guests are great leads. Do you guys introduce your guests over Zoom? I know we used to have a policy where if we brought a guest, we had kind of an email chain to people that we knew were really welcoming, and we would let them know, hey, I'm bringing so-and-so, this is who they are, this is where they're from. It'd be great if, you swing by our table. But then at the very beginning of our Rotary Club, we would stand up and we would introduce our guests and just do like a 30-second, this is so-and-so, this is where they're from, maybe a fun fact or something. But I think it really helps them feel engaged and feel important in a way. And it helped people kind of start being able to chat with them as well afterwards.
Well, I think there's a certain charm in seeing people's faces on Zoom. Maybe it's embarrassing to some, but I think we've gotten very used to it at University of Sunrise. I'd like Tom Rankin, our incoming president, who has done the most work on getting guests invited to our meetings, to make some comments. Ryan, can you unmute Tom? And Tom, would you step up and talk about how we do it at University of Sunrise?
Now you're allowed to talk.
Hello.
Oh.
So one thing I've done, I've up until tomorrow, I've been running a trade association, and a lot of the issues that go along with that are somewhat similar to a Rotary Club. You have to have people that want to learn, they want to network, and they want to have fun. So, a big thing for me is just building that database. And over the years, the database that we had grew to 16,000. So I've been applying the same thing to the club. And when we have a really good program, I've sent out 350 emails to friends, colleagues, etc., and asked them to join us. And it's been pretty effective. And for some of those, I think about 25% of our participation has come from that. So just asking people when there's a good program has been very effective.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom and Hal. Kay Cook.
Speaking, hi, I'm from the Kent Club, and I am the district DAC-DB trainer, so not specifically membership, but it goes along. I've been making some notes, so these are kind of scattered. One is the engagement module is recognizing service hours in addition to or instead of actual meeting hours. So this is good. You can bring people in based on an interesting project. We have projects we do that are every bit as important as a meeting. Another, we have a payment plan available. If people will ask for a payment plan right away, they have 6 months to spread their dues out. Makes the club able to pay their district and RI dues, but 6 months, and that helps. Our guests are welcome to come to lunch twice without paying, without the Rotarian bringing them paying. We want them to come and see if the coat fits. So they come without charge. We use helping hands. This is the person who takes the inductee from that point forward and keeps them moving along the line of things you need to know and ways you can be involved. We recognize that not all people who are good at sponsoring, at finding that member, they're often not the same ones to follow up on the mentoring side. And those who mentor, and I'm one of them, I'm lousy at finding new members. I'm pretty darn good about getting them connected inside and tracking them. So there's a whole variety of topics hit in there, but I have developed a saying that engaged is retained. We can retain more if we engage more. And everyone in business knows easier to keep a client than find a new one. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. And I agree. The great thing too about when you engage someone is they're more willing to go off and share their excitement and their passion for Rotary to others. And so I like what you said, that, you know, everyone has a kind of plays a piece to this puzzle of, you know, not everyone's going to be able to bring in all these new members and everything, but it's just as important to make sure that the members that are here are seeing the value, are feeling the love from us. So thank you for that. And real quick, I know Martha, she mentioned that her audio is not working, but she did put a good tip too, that to promote member retention, particularly when clubs have virtual meetings, a great thing for the committee to do is to call members who haven't attended meetings. I know we've gotten some calls out to some of our members at Rotary 4, but it is, you know, a lot of people have the extra time to make those calls. And it's also a good opportunity to call out former members to show that, you know, you still care and think about them, and that maybe they're wanting to rejoin. They are always welcome. So just wanted to share that. Thank you, Martha.
Yeah, Howard Cohen, our district governor nominee elect. So go ahead. Let's see. It looks like you're still muted. Unmute you. Well, it's not going to happen.
No worries.
Also, let me see. Benaya, I think, yeah, you've joined before. Please ask your question.
So my question,
Yeah.
my question is, we all have been facing the problem in retaining the members in our club. So how can we work on that and ensure long-term membership of the club members? How do I identify individual membership interest towards the club?
You're on mute, right? No.
Now Howard's on mute.
Now, Howard, sorry, I had to step away from.
Oh, you'll be next, Howard.
Okay.
So
Thanks. I'll be quiet.
we took a question. I can, or do you want to read Benaya's question?
Yeah, I can. So what he said is, we all have been facing the problem in retaining the members in our club. How can we work on that and ensure a long-term membership of the club member? How do I identify individual membership interests towards the club and Rotary? How do I identify what drives them towards the goal of Rotary? So I think there are a couple of different things at play here. One, I mentioned earlier, this is the time to really get to know too, not only your leadership, but your other committee chairs. Find out what is your new membership orientation. What does that look like when, you know, the moment they become a member? How are they greeted? How are they invited into the different committees? How do they learn about the different committees? How are you engaging them with different events that you guys are planning? You know, you want to look at what that life cycle looks like, you know, from start to all the way through. And look at how membership can help. And again, this doesn't have to be all on you guys. So creating those synergies with the other committees, working with other committees who maybe are the party planners, or working with committees who focus on the orientations or on the marketing side of things, even with social media. How do you share their story? Make them feel special, make them feel a part of the club. You know, as Martha mentioned, how are you reaching out to them, especially in these times? I know everyone's kind of going through things personally, and it feels really great to hear from people. And so how are you kind of putting that personal touch? How are you being authentic in really drawing them in and showing them that they are truly a part of a family? How do you identify individual membership interests? you know, a lot of that too can be during the mentorship part. If, you know, if there are mentors in place, that's a great way for you to start asking and finding out more information about them. Maybe it's after the first year of membership, there's an annual event just for the newbies, saying congratulations, you made a year. Maybe it's that, you know, once a month, maybe you do a campaign about I am Rotary for whatever Rotary number you guys are, I am Sunrise Rotary. And, you know, you can create a hashtag for that, and you can share their story on your social media or share it at the podium of one of your programs. There's different ways to kind of highlight people. It doesn't always have to be something so official either. I know when I first got engaged, Caroline Bobanek made sure that they announced, you know, President Kim announced real quickly that the exciting news at the club. And so things like that really just draw people in and make it really personal, I think help.
Okay, Howard, go on.
All right, and just so to be aware of time too, I know we're getting close to 8. I'm happy to go over a little bit as well, but maybe we'll take this one last one, and then I'll go over some final thoughts, and then if more people have questions, I can stay on for a little bit longer. You're okay with that, Ryan?
Yeah, that's okay.
So thank you for letting me speak. I was going to talk a little bit about retention, which is really important in membership. Yeah. And as Bailey, as a salesperson, I'm sure you realize that it's easier to keep a customer than get a new customer.
Absolutely.
So I think we just had the secretary session about between 5 and 6. And one of the questions that came up was taking attendance. And I think what's really important is that they take attendance and then read the attendance. So somebody who misses 2 meetings in a row, somebody needs to literally make a phone call and say, hey, Bob, hey, Mary, where you been? So I was president a few years ago, and we had one member who was very active, and then we didn't see him for about 3-4 weeks. And I wonder what happened to Jim. And all of a sudden, Jim calls me up one day and goes, oh, by the way, sorry, I haven't been to the club meeting. I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And it was like, oh my God, what a 2x4 across the head. So I think it's really important that the membership committee take a look, in my mind, my suggestion is to take a look with the secretary at the attendance sheet. And anybody that misses 2 meetings in a row, somebody should call them up and go, hey, where you been? We miss you, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people that leave Rotary leave because people just don't think they care about them. So I think that's a great caring tool and should be considered as a thought.
Howard, that is great. I think it's really important, right? Because it's showing that you care. I know some clubs have what's called Rotary Cares as well, where there's someone that heads it up, but people can email in too and let people know kind of what's happening in their lives, or if they just want to let people know what's happening. You know, if you find out about your friend and, you know, maybe they want you to share for them so they're not having to call everyone, but they still want people to know. That's always an opportunity as well. But I love that you want to be aware of your members and you want to make sure that you're checking in on them just as if you would want to be checked in on.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll jump over back to the PowerPoint real quick just to give you guys some final thoughts. I think this was a great discussion, you guys. You know, this definitely gets the cards rolling, and I love that people jumped in. I loved hearing everyone's different takes and what have been working well for you guys, because hopefully, you know, other people are taking notes during all of this. And again, this will be on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to listen to it again if you missed one of them. But now is the time to start, you know, connect with each other. Maybe Howard said something that really caught your eye and, you know, you want to reach out to him. Maybe Martha, you want to talk a little bit more about what she had to say. You know, go ahead and connect with each other, again, with your leadership. Go ahead and identify what some of the pain points are and what some of these questions should be. We can help you through all of those and start asking questions, right? Ask your leadership what they're planning to do on pricing. Ask, you know, your friends what it would take for them to be a Rotarian right now. look at how you are integrating Rotary. Just overall, I did a whole conversation on this last night, but it really helps. Now is the time for you to reflect on, practice, and share your story. The more that you get that down, I think it's going to be helpful for you to then help others reflect on, practice, and share their story, because it's really the authenticity of when you're sharing it, you're sharing your passion, and people can feel that. And that's what kind of intrigues people to, you know, I remember Linda was someone who really showed me passion for Rotary. And when I came with her, it was great to see it, because once you bring them to the table, right, it's not all on you to just have the application in hand and be handing it out to all of your friends and family for a hard sell, but get them hooked by hearing your own story. And then when you bring them, they're going to see all these amazing people and hear all their amazing stories, and they're going to want to be a part of it too. But don't wait for Rotary to get mentioned for you to mention Rotary, right? How are you integrating it into your everyday talk? Make it easier to bring up Rotary. How are you sharing it in your life? Last week, Robin wrote, our incoming district public image chair discussed this. You know, how many of you have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? And how many of you actually share about the programs or about the things that you learned in Rotary or the people that you met with? How many of you guys wear your pin? I'm not sure how your Rotary Club works, but we have badges where each week we individually hold on to them and we bring them. And I keep mine at my desk at work. And every Wednesday when I get ready to leave the office to catch an Uber to our meeting, I put it on at the office. And my coworkers always laugh and joke. They're like, oh, it must be Rotary Wednesday. I can't wait to hear what, you know, you learned today or who your speaker was. But I would wear it from the time I left the office to the time that I would get back. And even waiting for the Uber, I would have people approach me, and, you know, it would be a great conversation starter. I want you also to please, please, please remember you are not alone. Visit our district website. We have some great tools there for you if you want some of the other videos. If you want to watch some of the videos that Jean had done on their on other people's stories, you can get some ideas around that. I know that's something that she actually wants to continue going forward. So maybe there's a way you can build up a campaign around that. And maybe it's a way to highlight your members and help with retention, while also getting new members excited for what they can look forward to. And then on this final slide, I just want to thank you again for joining me. I know this is your evening. And this is my personal email. So it's baileyneelandconsulting@gmail.com. But please feel free to reach out, whether you want me to listen to some ideas you have, whether you're having difficulties or you're really struggling with something. Just know that I am here for you. I am your district membership chair. And you guys will be hearing from me. If you guys have not already gone on, I'm sharing it one more time, the Google Docs. It should be available for you to edit. So please fill out your information. I want to make sure that you guys are included on everything that I'm sending out, on all the upcoming meetings. I want to make sure you guys feel as prepared for the year ahead as possible. Do we have any other questions?
Richard has his hand up.
Yes, Richard.
But muted. Oh, there we go.
You can hear me. Just had a question. If you have any comments on a membership brochure, especially for potential / new members.
Yeah, I think those can be very helpful. It depends. You're going to want to really think about the elements that you're putting into that membership brochure. We used to use them. We would go to different kind of fairs, or if there were different events happening, if people had questions. Some people will even do just little business cards to keep it really simple and maybe direct it back to a website if you have information. But brochures can be really helpful. And I don't know if anyone else has done some of that. Karma just mentioned too, the Rotary International website has some that can be downloaded. So if you want some help, I would say, I would urge you to put in, maybe keep it really local and make it personalized to your Rotary, because I know every Rotary group's a little bit different, and people really like to hear how Rotary is affecting their community and their kind of local area. But that's definitely something we can talk about on our next call. I'll add that to our list.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and they do say the templates on the Rotary International site are editable. So if you want to go and check those out, check out Rotary International. Any other questions?
It looks like Corey had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm that those materials on the Rotary Brand Center, the brochure is completely editable. It's a two-sided, full color. You can brand it with all your club's information. You can swap out the photos with your own club photos. And it can be a great tool when you're doing meetings, one-on-ones, and things like that. And then I posted a link to the Zones membership materials that is in the chat there that are available at Zone 2627. So great presentation tonight, and thanks for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, Corey. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. So if you guys missed it in the chat box, Corey put membership materials available on the Zone 2626 website or 2627 website. So go ahead and check those out as well.
I also have PowerPoint templates, which they're really helpful.
Thank you everyone again for taking your evening to join with us. Thank you to Ryan for conducting this meeting for us and having all tech things go as planned. And yes, we will be in touch with you.
Thank you.